Good morning. Welcome to day 10 of the Do You Rules live stream on our journey towards 1,000 hours of self-improvement. I think it's working now. I was just talking for 15 minutes and my screen kept going blank or it kept going like to sleep. And I'm wondering, what am I doing here? Is it not? And now I can see in my app, it says stop streaming, whereas before it said start streaming. All right. I just went through 15 minutes of talking to myself. That's cool. I see it as prep work. And big for today on what we're talking about. I got my chapstick, which is customary. I got my water, and we'll do a time check. Isn't as cool as it was before. What time is it? There you go. It's 4:29 a.m. And oh, what's good? Good morning, Red Rose. I thought about, what's crazy is routine and habit. I looked and I said, is Red Rose not joining today? I got a little disappointed. I wanted to ask, if you don't mind me asking, are you up this early every day? And is it because yes, day 10. Is it because you're going to work or starting? I don't want to be too personal. It's none of my business, really. I'm just curious what gets you up this early. Question for Red Rose. And while she does that, good morning. It's what I was talking about today. Day 10. Yes. She's getting busy early. So where I was going when I was recording, but not recorded, I think it's apropos. So my message of what I wanted to deliver today is, I don't know where you're at in your journey. If you're 10 days in and you're looking for 1,000 hours, the reality to getting to 1,000 hours may not be feasible for you. And that's cool. It is for me because I've been doing this for quite some time. And so I use that as an overarching premise to somewhat inspire you. If you were at 0 last year and you get to 100, you're 100 hours better. If you get to 50, the point really is to put in hours of work. And the biggest thing I wanted to say, because it is early, and I just went through this experience right now, whatever you do, do not give up on yourself. Don't give up on yourself. Do not give up on yourself. And I know as a standard human that we think these things. There's no way we cannot think these things, because when you look at some of the data on how people are somewhat struggling and suffering, and when you start to ask people about where they're at with their lives and they're not where they're at with their lives, it begs the question for me, and I say this humbly and respectfully. If we can agree that you're not where you want to be with your life, have you given up on your life? Not in listen, obviously you're still living your life. You're not doing nothing crazy, I hope. But why aren't you where you want to be? And we got to talk about what that means. So Red Rose stays at home. She has something called free running sleep. So her sleep patterns are off, but usually I'm awake at this time every morning. Cool. That brings you here. I would love to get into that one day to figure out what that is. And at some point, hopefully we build a community, because I don't have all the answers. It's the same way in business, my line of business. I try to hire a lot of really smart people because I need smart people around me to help make decisions. And if somebody else has experienced something that I haven't experienced and can offer you some assistance, why not? Like that's the beauty of life. So don't give up on yourself. And it's very easy. Like, I was in a flow 15 minutes ago. I was starting to feel it. I was getting the vibes, and I wasn't recording. So it's easy to say, today's not my day. I'm not going to record. I'm out. Right? It's easy to say, I'm 10 days in. And part of what I was saying was, you start to drive yourself crazy in your mind. And one of the things I'm unable to do, which I'm not complaining, I don't ever want this to go away, I can't turn off the voice in my head. And I can assure you that before I went on this, because to me, the biggest thing I can explain my journey is as of consciousness. My consciousness is my image from creator, I believe. Forget all that. It's where my thoughts derive from, certainly. And I'm so conscious of how my thoughts drive and influence my emotions, or how my emotions influence and drive my thoughts, that I'm constantly checking myself. Like, yo, what are you thinking? 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 And so if I'm not thinking what I think I need to be thinking, then it's like, stop. We were watching Squid Games, my kids and I. I don't watch a lot of TV, but I do dedicate time to them. And if they're like, yo, I want to watch TV, I watch TV with them. We watch Squid Games. So if you're thinking like, excuse me, red light, green light, when I'm in a great mental space and all my thoughts are just flowing, 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 it's like green light. She hopped on as soon as she received the notification. That's dope. I'm gonna get to why that's big. So when my thoughts are good and green light, I let them flow. Green light, flow, 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 flow. When I start thinking crazy things, it's like red light, I stop. And I bring myself sort of to consciousness, and I start to talk to yo, what's wrong? What's going on? Why are you in this mental state? And sometimes there's a reality to, as I have referenced before, like my body, everything in my body hurts, right? So I've gone 3 straight days of strength training. Usually I take a day off after that. There's a reality to, yo, today you gotta chill. Like my body is screaming at me. I gotta respond to that properly. I gotta give it some rest. Rest can be a form of self-improvement, in that without rest, you can't recover. If you can't recover, then you're no good to yourself. You got to give yourself some rest. I get all that. But in the same way, I'm so focused on this self-improvement journey that every second I get to dedicate to this, I'm on it. So as I already referenced, my job gets a priority. It gets 8 hours in my day. My wife and my children get any time they need, but because of my schedule is the way it is, I'm like right now they're sleeping. They don't need me right now. They're sleeping. I don't have to worry about them, right? That's a good thing. It's a relief and a release of pressure from my brain. But then I'm there for them. Typically, we spend all of our evenings together. We eat, we talk shit, all the standard family things. When they don't need me, I'm researching, I'm reading. And it's not to say that I don't give myself some downtime. And I was saying before, what's messing with my head right now is I know I've said some of these things already, but it wasn't recorded. And I'm going to repeat some of these things. And I'm starting to feel a little awkward. Like, did I say this already? And I did, but whatever. I'm here and I got to keep saying it. There are days where naturally I doom scroll my life away, or I should say minutes and moments and hours, because it does get daunting. It is taxing on your mind to constantly think about this idea of, am I improving? Because when you start to think about, am I improving, some of the things that come to your mind too is, am I doing it right? Am I making any progress? And I would say to that, probably not. Well, probably you are probably doing it right, but you're probably making, and you're making some progress, but not as much as you might want. And the reality to that is, like, don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. Is there is a truth to the 1%, get 1% better every day. I know I'm cliche, Jeff. I say some things you already know. But if you're not focused on little tiny baby steps, then the voice in your head is going to drive you crazy, and it's going to make you want to stop. And I'll say, I wanted to say this too. Sometimes the voice in my head is so loud, like it's so loud, and I can hear myself thinking, and I'll get into some crazy thoughts. And let's say I might be at the table, the dinner table with my wife and my kids, and I'll look up real quick and I'll look around like, wait, did anybody just hear me? That's how loud my voice gets. I feel like I've actually said and omitted energy and vibrations into the realm of existence I'm in. And I get nervous, like, yo, did you? Because I don't want to hear, you don't need to hear what I'm thinking all the time. It's not great. Yes, let it flow. Thank you. And so, okay, we're not quitting. We're not giving up. We're putting in the work, 1% better every day. The reason why I believe that's tangible is because, is because how else do you quantify improving, right? The reality to how things work is we want a certain reward. If you're putting in physical effort, there's a certain, you might think there's a body you want. If you're putting in effort like what I'm doing, you might think there's a subscriber count you want. Excuse me. If you're looking for monetary success, there's a number. It it doesn't come right away. It just doesn't. But the behaviors associated with the success you're seeking have to be established. And then ultimately, it's a compound effect. If I'm in the same place, same time every day, doing the same things, same place, same time every day, it's only natural that you're going to get better at it, right? Yes, 1% every day. Red Rose agrees. How else do we make an impact? How else do we start to see results that don't align with, I can't do this, I'm not seeing anything? You're not supposed to see anything. I wrote something down to the effect. Let me see if I can use it to make it tangible for right now. So I wrote specifically this. Results are likely not tangible yet. They're not tangible. You can't really touch them. You can't really see them. It's 10 days. What were you expecting for 10 days, right? But the experience of the pain is. Why? Because 10 days ago, when you were going 1% at a time, you weren't in pain. You were just used to whatever it is you were doing. So you were flowing. You were exactly where you needed to be. And there was no change, no different. Some results, however, are less obvious but worth acknowledging. And what could that be? Consistency being the biggest one. So if we're going to get 1% better every day, you got to have a level of consistency. There's some non-negotiables that go with this. We can't expect, I certainly can't expect to get 1% better every day if I'm not consistent. And consistency simply is sometimes just showing up. I was reading something that somebody said, 90% of people who get ahead, or what would get you 90% ahead of everyone, and these are arbitrary, these numbers. I think people make some of this shit up. And I also, because of who I am and I'm so literal, I'm like 90% of who? When I read a poll, 90% of people are successful at this. They polled like 1,000 people. How could you tell me 90% are successful? There's 8 billion people. You polled 1,000. That's a little, anyway, I digress. Okay, some results are less obvious but worth acknowledging. Consistency being the biggest one. Truth and honesty, which is integrity. We talked about I'm where I said I was going to be, when I said I was going to be, doing what I said I was going to be doing. These are character traits that, unbeknownst to me, because I'm not gonna cast aspersions. People get real sensitive. I didn't have a lot of these qualities, not in the way that allowed me to improve 1% every day. I was consistent, but I was consistent more with my drinking and waking up as late as I possibly could in the morning to get things done. You see how that works? Now you flip and you do the inverse. Now I'm more consistent with getting up at 3:30, right? I recorded a video yesterday that goes over my exact routine at 4 o'clock. And it's crazy. I've been doing this for over 1,000 days. 1,000 days is, I'll tell you, that 1%, I'm not the same person I was. And thank God. And there was nothing wrong with, that's another thing too. The idea that maybe we need to improve because we're not already great. You're a great human. The likelihood that you are not a great person is very marginal. It's very, like, some people do some egregious things and outrageous things. But like, being a human is beautiful. The likelihood that you are not a beautiful human is probably like that big. And even then, who am I to say you're not? You just, something happened that you made some decisions that make you feel, or you've done some things that society's like, oh, that's not good. You're going to pay for that. That's not me to judge, because you're going to pay for it. But there's nothing about who you are and the potentiality around your existence and the essence of amazingness you have in you that doesn't say you aren't beautiful. If you don't believe that, you can get 1% better at that every day too. I'll tell you right now, I have no qualms with my beauty. I keep saying it. I think I'm wonderful. I'm amazing. Although my wife, it's funny. My wife is like, yo, when my egg-shaped head, she's like, you got to work on your camera angles. I'm like, I'll get on that later. Right now, I'm just busy being beautiful, getting 1% better every day. That's life, right? All right. Truth and honesty, which is integrity. Now, here's the reality about where we're at 10 days in, right? And here's the reality to 1% better every day. The truth is, you're always going to pay more. You're going to pay more out than what you receive. And maybe 10 days in, if you're on a weight loss journey, maybe you've lost a pound. But to lose that 1 pound, you had to put 1 hour in every day, which means it cost you 10 days and 10 hours for 1 pound. You see how that, like, you're like, ooh, yes, a pound. Don't get into the habit of dismissing 1%. Take every win and make it grandiose. Celebrate it. But if you go if you go the opposite route and you're like, man, it took me 10 hours and 10 days, that starts to hurt, right? What's also real, so you pay out more than what you get sometimes, right? And what I closed out my comment with is, early on in the process, you're going to be less efficient, which is being less effective. And the reason why you're less efficient and less effective is because it's new. I got the fireworks. Boom. You're less effective and less efficient because it's new. When you're adopting new processes, you have to first get over yourself and how you feel. I know how that sounds cliche. You have to ensure you don't give up on yourself. And I can assure you, with the way that consciousness works, what you want to get to with everything new on improvement is you want to get to the point where you don't have to think about it every day. Because the more you don't have to think about it, the more you just do it, the better you get. And the easiest way to ensure that you are doing it is to get out of your own way, get out of your own head. So in the same way that I said I'm in my head all the time and I'm thinking thoughts, when I'm committed to my decision and I know I'm in my routine, like I wake up, I just wake up. I know that you hear that. What does it mean to just wake up? Do you have to cloak yourself in gratitude? I certainly wake up and I'm like, thank you, God. I'm alive today. Thank you for putting me on the list, right? Does that inspire me? Yes. But the goosebumps I got the first time, that's part of it, right? When you first do this, you're hyped, you're hyped, you're hyped. And then, day 10, maybe day 10 is still early, but day 30, 60, 90, you lose that. Like, I still am very grateful to say, thank you, God, I'm alive. But when I first learned to say that, it didn't hit me the same way it does now because I'm used to saying it. So there's a reality to this too, that the things that give you a rush and a high that you become addicted to doing because you're like, oh, this is dope. Even right now, I get a rush from being live, right? Eventually that goes away. It gets very common. And the same way Red Rose joined the first day and I was like, oh shit. When we get a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth, it's not gonna feel the same way because you can't repeat that feeling. But ironically, you're chasing that high over and over. But a lot of times in the beginning, my point to all that, what I was saying, what I wrote down here is part of the message. Check on time, 4:46. We're less efficient in the process. And when we feel less efficient, it can start to have a lot of the negative connotation associated with emotions and feelings can start to play on us because you start stumbling. One of the things I talk about efficiency, I want to get into my last point of the comment here, but how do you get 1% better where it doesn't have all the sex appeal and some of the visible, tangible, oh, look, that person is an actualized human. For me to get up at 3:30, inclusive of thank you, God, I'm alive, right? Imagine getting up and how you get up today. Whenever you get up, wherever you get up today. What is your routine? A lot of it is what are you thinking, but what do you do to make it easier on yourself? What do you do to remove friction? So when you're making a change and an improvement, let's say I'm trying to get up earlier, there's no way I'm getting up at 3:30 and saying, what do I have to wear today? There's no way. What am I going to do today? There's no way. But in the same way, although I may think that some of those things are obvious, when I first start to get into this flow, you got to stumble over and make a few mistakes before you get very efficient in the process. And even if you realize I got to have my clothes picked out, I'm going to go pray and meditate, and then I'm going to go do some cardio or whatever it is I'm going to do. I'm going to read, I'm going to write, I'm going to journal. Let's go. Let's go. Red Rose she started the new year off with a list of things that she's doing at least 4 times a week and each month. Boom. I will add something new to the list. Meditating, journaling, dancing. Oh, I got 7 left feet. I try it. I try to poop, 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 but I'm not really that good at it. Making my art. What kind of art do you make? And reading. Reading is dope. What does that mean, Red Rose? Making my art. I'll wait for that. I think the stream on OBS is delayed too. Because a lot of times I'll do my whole change your mind, change your life. I am who I say I am. Do you and stay rich. And then I click stop streaming. And when I watch it, it cuts off. So I think there's a sort of a little delay. But the efficiencies, the point with the efficiencies and knowing how to make yourself effective and efficient throughout the day is if you stumble, it creates, for me at least, it creates conflict in yourself. It can make you less confident because you start, I don't want to say there's nothing worse, but to have the right intention and not set yourself up properly. That's why we talk about, in Atomic Habits in the books we read, habit stacking. So it's not just that I'm gonna get up at 3:30. What do you need to be successful to get up at 3:30? How do you become more efficient? Got to get your ass to sleep early. You ain't going to bed 11 o'clock at midnight. So really, the morning starts at night. And you may not realize that the first couple of days. You might think you do, but putting it into effect and being efficient at it, it's not going to be day one. Have your clothes ready. Have your socks ready. Know what you're doing. Abstract artist. I paint and draw and I take nature photos. Plus writing my nature poetry. Look at this. Poetess in her name. The Red Rose Poetess. Dope. So imagine that too. And you're like Red Rose and you have something that is, to me, that's ingrained in you. That's coded in you. That is your gift. To art. If you read anything about people who are super impactful, and have these types of skill sets and vision and are able to be relatable and connect deeply, artists. And artists come in varying forms. I think if you speak, I think speaking is an art, but in abstract art, poetry, drawing, painting, that's a dip, the lens of how you view things and the connection you have. I'm not an artist in that way. When you read about it and you start putting it together and you watch, art speaks to you without words. You ever see a painting and you're like, oh, and it's natural to say, yo, what was that person thinking? You could think all you want about what that person might have been thinking. You can never think like that person, which is, really you could never think like anybody else anyway. But you can certainly appreciate that within all of us, there's a level of beauty we can touch, tap into, and that art brings out and resonates with us. So keep doing your thing, Red Rose. Keep that. And whether or not you want to publish your painting and your art, boom, exactly. Or whatever you want to do with it, be successful at it because it's for you. So this 1% better, this idea around one of the things I said before I got cut off is we need to reward ourselves. We need to reward ourselves. But the reward you're seeking is not going to always be, it's not, I don't want to use the word always. Let's agree to some things. Let's agree to some things. Do you really rationalize in your mind that everyone can be rich in dollars? I say no. I say no. Now, excuse me. The 1% has now become, I think, 2%. What does that mean for us? It means that the truth is there's 98% I think I might have talked about percentages and how people talk. And this is guaranteed to work for you 60% of the time. Anyway, I digress because I want to stick to my point. If we can agree that we're all not going to have a private jet, we're all not going to have a mansion, we're all not going to have a Bugatti, we're all not going to pay and buy everybody in our family a house and take them on lavish shopping sprees down Fifth Avenue or wherever it is, and my daughter wants to go to all these crazy places in LA. I'm not saying that you shouldn't make manifest that world if you want it, but really, is that what you really want? Is that what you really want? Because if it is, based on everything I know and based on if you want to look at my percentage, I'm somewhere like in the top 7%, right? There's and there's people who, man, anyway, there's a gap between me and that percentage. I'm not gonna divulge my explicit desires and thoughts in that way, except to say I'm not afraid of the work. I'm not afraid of the work. So 1% for me, I'm locked in on my compound effect. As much as I tell myself, you got to be there for yourself. Don't quit. Don't give up. Don't give up. I'm telling you this not to sound cool. It's sort of, and I wonder sometimes, like, is this a diary for me? The diary of cliche Jeff at 4 a.m. But I believe I'm like you, and do you not feel like you want to give up sometimes? I feel it, and I don't want to be shy about admitting it. I feel like I want to give up, and I feel like I want to give up because how could you say, yo, 10 days in and like, where am I at? That's a lot of hours. Anyway, if we can agree, fortunate or unfortunate, we can't all get the type of richness that society, and this is my thing. I believe I'm very sensitive about society dictating to you what you should feel is success. You feel successful. You feel successful. What truly resonates with your soul. Yes. And Red Rose is agreeing. We all do at times, right? Define success for yourself. If it's 1%, 2%, great. If it's not, great. But choose what success is for you and then stay committed and never stop, never give up. But if we can agree that all of us are not going to get there, even from the premise of because all of us don't really want it, then how do you reward yourself? How do you reward yourself? How do you keep yourself moving in the direction of 1%? How do you not give up? And so you stack the wins you stack become specific to you and driving you towards, yes, as individuals, driving you, success is, what Red Rose is saying, success is what success means for us as individuals. It's not to say that your success can't impact a gazillion people. It's just to say, is that what you really want? And if that's what you really want, there's a level of effort required. If that's not what you want, then there's less effort required, but there's more effort required in different directions. But you got to be able to reward yourself every day and being able to say, I'm staying committed. I'm staying consistent. I'm increasing my level, as I said before, of integrity, of discipline, of focus, of intention. I can't offer anything more to you than the characteristics of a mindset and a level of consciousness of self-appreciation, of self-love. So how do you love on yourself? How do you nurture yourself? How do you seduce yourself? There's a level that has to be required too. Life is seductive. What are you doing to influence yourself? What are you doing to make yourself move where you want to move? All these things, and I feel like I sort of lost my overarching point to a degree, but if we can agree that everything is not for everyone in the way that we think everything might be for everyone, then we have a baseline at minimum to say, I know what I want for me. I know what I want for me. If it's poetry, if it's artistry, if it's drawing, do it. If it's speaking on a mic and starting a community, do it. Little business, big business, media business, freedom, however you define, that's the biggest thing for me. What sets you free? What's going to set you free? What's going to alleviate the natural pressures and stressors of life, which is really the restriction of your soul, man? What's going to release you and help you drop the burden? Red Rose is agreeing with me. And the weight of life. There is a quote I wanted to read about the burden. Some of what I said here, we focus so much on what we don't have, we lose what we have. We focus so much on what it costs, we forget we're already paying out. You deserve nothing. And in that way, you have everything. Think about it. We focus so much on what we don't have, we lose sight of what we have. We focus so much on what it costs, we forget we're already paying out. You deserve nothing, and in that way, you have everything. I wrote this to myself. And one of my mind doesn't stop racing. I got to write things down. Where's your focus? Where's your focus? And what I really want to have resonate, what resonates with me, is I fully and firmly believe, when we're talking about the improvement journey, I believe sometimes in the way that it's pushed, marketed, and sold, that it implies, like, I think you're already disciplined. It's just you're disciplined to whatever you do today. And if your discipline says you wake up arbitrarily whenever you feel like waking up, and you scream at yourself, and you get mad at yourself, and you brush your teeth, and you kick the dog, and you scream at the wife and the kids on the way out the door, and you're doing that every day, that's your discipline. I'm not judging you. That's the way. And then you get it's the same way before you start your day, you have a cup of coffee. Growing up in the city, you grab your coffee, your bacon, egg, and cheese, you start your day. That's a typical New York thing. I'm from New York at my root in this core. I think we use this as a way to kind of sort of push people down. This is my opinion. I think that a lot of people in this space want to push you down to build themselves up. Look what I do. They flex on you. They flex everything they do in a way to make it seem like what you're doing is wrong. I keep saying it. I'm not telling you what you're doing. If you're living and you're getting through and you're doing your thing and you don't really feel like you want to change, cool. You're doing it right. If you feel like there's nothing to improve on, cool. You've reached a point where there's nothing to improve on. It's not to say you don't have discipline and willpower. You're willing yourself to do what you already do every day. Now, the reality and the question comes down to, if that's not what you want to do, in that way, when I made that remark, you might decide you want to change. And if you got to where I was in your weight, that weight, I say it like this. I'm 6 feet, 230 pounds, drinking alcohol every night, waking up with it. I can sometimes, like when I talk about it, I can still taste it. It's been over 1,000+ days of not drinking, right? And deciding, I'm going to go lose weight. So you go for a run at 230 pounds. You're not really running. It's like you're walking at a fast pace because you can't even handle your body. You can't handle your body weight. So in that way, you say, this is going to cost me a lot. I tell you, I remember almost vividly, it's after 5 o'clock. I'm going longer than I usually go. Allow grace for ourselves, knowing that we are trying, being, doing, and becoming 1% more every day. Yes. So we might look at the cost of improving and say, it's going to cost a lot. It's going to cost a lot of pain, a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, a lot of insecurity, imagine, I think I was running 17-minute miles when I first started. And then imagine going outside and you're running and you're like, and then somebody comes running by you and it's shh, and you look and you're like, damn, man, how the fuck they get there? It hurts. It costs. But here's the truth. As I said already, you're disciplined and have willpower to what you're doing. It already costs you. It already costs. You're paying out to life anyway. You're doing the time anyway. It's just a matter of how efficient, effective, and conscious are you of your time. Because you're paying. And life, you're giving to life, and life is taken from you every day. It's a continual, that's the guarantee. And at some point, life goes, I'm clocking you out, you're done. And then what it is at that point is what it is at that point, and what you got is what you got, and what you did is what you did. It's not to say that what you put your mind towards and start to focus on, that you'll get everything, because you can't have everything. But in the same way, you already have everything, because all you should really want is what's for you. Is what's for you. What somebody else gets, what somebody else has, you need other people to have it different, if for no other reason than to remind you why you want it the way you want it, right? A lot of the times we get into comparing, contrasting. I talk about hate is the protector of love. I need to know I'm hated a little bit. It reminds me why I love myself. I need to know when somebody's telling me you're doing it wrong. It reminds me why I'm doing it right. Because exactly why you think I'm wrong is exactly why you think I'm right, is exactly why I stay on my journey. And part of the 1% better is I convince myself of that every day. Why? Because I put in the time, I put in the energy, I put in the effort, I put in the research. And the research is not just what somebody else is doing. I keep telling everybody about this. I research on myself. Sitting with myself in silence, I hear what I'm saying to myself. I hear what I'm doing to myself. I'm watching the effects of my work and how it has an impact on me. I share it with you. I offer it to you. I don't tell you what to do. I just say it's a possibility. It's a possibility that if you wake up every day at 3:30 or 4 o'clock, please no later than 5 o'clock, because you need time. How else are you going to get 1% better if you don't have time? If you don't have time, then you don't have time. So when you come tell me I don't have time, conversation's over. You don't have time. You're already convinced. Are you wrong? No. Are you right? No. It just is. It just is. And so you get up, you put the time, you get the return on investment. You sit alone with yourself and you give yourself time to let everything go. Like, the world is noisy. The world is very, 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 very noisy. If you don't spend time listening to yourself, who are you really listening to? And so if you're not listening to yourself, and who are you really listening to, then how are you living? Are you living as yourself, or are you living as someone else and what they told you should live by? I'm only asking a possibility. And I learned this when I did what? I started to sit with myself. And you start to ask yourself, what is in my head? And you get all these thoughts and you ask yourself, where are these thoughts coming from? Are they really my thoughts? I don't know. Are they? Are you thinking how you want to think? Are you moving how you want to move? Or are you thinking how you were taught to think? And are you moving how you were told to move? Red Rose, she does the same. Loves learning about herself, the inner workings of her mind, heart, and soul, and about others. Learning about the human experience. Dominate your own human experience and watch what happens. I'm just saying. It's a possibility. You can't give up. That's one thing. Don't give up. Don't. You're not seeing what you want to see right now. That's cool. When you start, like, think about, like, Red Rose and I now have been having dialogue for, 3-4 days. Think about if you watched when she first got on, if you care, maybe you won't. I told you I was hyped. You get that. Boom. Oh, right? And then it might be like another month before you get another, oh. But that's the way, when you pay in and you have that compound effect, the sensations and the joys and the highs, they come a little less often. But to me, it feels even greater, because you're grinding and 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 you're not seeing anything, no rewards, no gains, no earns. And then boom, you go from 10 hours and 10 days and 1 pound. Then all of a sudden you're like 60 days in and 25 pounds came off. And you're like, oh shit, how'd that happen? Or you flexing in the mirror and you stop flexing in the mirror. Then all of a sudden you walk by the mirror and you're like, oh shit, that just happened, right? You have, like, you gotta believe that the self-improvement journey and all that you're doing is, first of all, you're worth it. When you accept the fact that you're worth it, and you sort of just go through this process of, you got to tear the entire house down. You got to break, not just to the studs. I'm talking about foundationally. Destroy the house that is you, and then rebuild. And it starts. Don't build a basement at ground level. Build a basement like I think God blessed me this way. When I built my house, you could build it with a walkout. You could build it with a walkout basement. Yes, 1% will accumulate and multiply. 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 is always going to add. Point being, I think foundationally, when you build, you got to go down into the crevices. You got to start in the dungeon. Carl Jung, the psychologist, I'm not going to pretend like I'm that versed, but I do read, and I have read some of his books. I do some of his research. or research around who he is, they talk about the shadow. The shadow is a lot of who you really are that you suppress for fear that that person is not somebody you want to let out. And I'm paraphrasing immensely. It's deeper than that, and we should talk about the shadow one day, but not for today. But just imagine that you can't suppress who you are anymore. Like, I'm an asshole sometimes. I just am. I'm not gonna pretend like that person doesn't exist. I'm not gonna pretend like sometimes I don't want to make the decision that is very tempting. I don't want to pretend like I don't see. I'm gonna tell you one of my gifts. Yes, the shadow self. You want to know what I realize one of my gifts are? I'm gonna tell you straight up. I'll be real with you. In every aspect of my life, it's not that I see the easy way. I see it. I see the grimy way. I see the fuck you over. I can see how to rob the bank. I can always see how. I don't just see how to rob the bank. Now, maybe this is just arrogance, but I'm trying to explain to you what I believe is in my shadow. I can see how to rob the bank and get out without anybody knowing I was there. And not only can I see that I can rob the bank and get out without anyone knowing is there, I want to rob the bank and get out without anybody knowing I was there. Why? I don't know. Maybe I need to see somebody and sit on somebody's couch. But I always see the easy way. I always see the shortcut. I'm very tempted. I'm very tempted to be like, yo, oh, we could do that? We could do that and get away with it? Let's do it. And I have to fight that. That's part of my shadow. And fighting that is not to say it doesn't exist. I'm not going to front. Like I said yesterday on the stream, my daughter, thank God for that comment. You wouldn't say this if you were on a live stream. I probably would, now that I think about it, but also I wouldn't intend to. It's not to say I put up a facade. I don't put up a front. I'm me all the time. I promise you. One of the best compliments I got, my wife's in marketing. I said, hey, you got any feedback for me? No, I've been noticing lately that you seem to be the same person when you record, when you upload, that you are in the house. That's the best thing you could do. Best compliment ever. And so in that way, I'm not perfect, my G. Like, I can be a dirty dog. And I think that everybody could be a dirty dog because life offers you temptations. And it's super real, I believe, for me to say, like, if you told me, yo, if you do this, you get 1 million subscribers, and it was a little dirty, I'd at least think about it. Because why wouldn't you? Is it natural? I don't know. But that's part of what I can see, right? And so my way to learn to, I'll tell you right now, also, I'll say this straight up. I'll never do it again. I'll never fall into that temptation. I feel very good about saying that. And here's why. Because I broke the house down to nothing. I went into the basement. I had a conversation with that person who is dark and dirty and demonic and was like, yo, I can't give you any more light. Not in this way. Not in this way. Because every time we do the dirty, we pay for it. Have you not seen? Have you not seen? And I'll tell you like this. There are some things that I have done that I should never repeat out loud that I know at this point no one will ever get me on. There's some things I've done that are just only I know it. You want to be real about life and making yourself 1% better. What are the things you've done that only you know about, that you think you got away with? You know who knows about it? You. You know who's avoiding that? You. You know when it hurts? When you talk to you about it. And you're like, yo. Huh? And then you have to have an honest conversation of, I can't be like this. I can't live like this. That to me strips your soul. That is what is stressful for me, is I don't want to give in to the temptation. But I also can't pretend like it doesn't exist. Because if I do, then I do break down. And so the way to I kind of combat that portion of my shadow is like, he does need light. I need to satisfy that insatiable kind of thirst that's in me to kind of, like, what gives me that feeling? Microphone. writing a script, like Red Rose. Maybe it's painting. But you can't suppress it, ignore it, and pretend like it doesn't exist and think it's never going to bother you again. No. There's still bottles of alcohol in my house. I didn't get rid of none of the alcohol. Why? I know it's there. I don't front. It's a choice not to drink. The way that the weights, I do all my weight training in my house. You don't have to lift them. It's a choice. I don't have to go outside and run. It's a choice, right? I don't have to sit and deal with the conflict with my wife. It's a choice. On and on. I don't have to sit and deal with the job that's not giving me what I want right now, but I can still put forth best effort, or I can quiet quit. It's all a choice. There's all these little micro decisions that we and these micro thoughts. I was going back to the I got to use the bathroom too. I'm going a lot longer than I would. We have to walk that line, the bordering the dark and the light, and stay in the middle. Yes, you can't front like, you know what's crazy? If you read the word Lucifer, the Bible, Lucifer means, and I'm paraphrasing somewhat, he who has fallen from, here it is, the light bearer. It is said that when Lucifer fell, light exploded. So imagine that it's not the dark. It's not the darkness where all the dirty is. It's the light in this way. Because when somebody puts on a light, you put on a show. Is that really you? Is who you are in the light really you? I don't know. Because who you are in the dark when nobody's watching, I guarantee you that is really you. And if who you are when the lights are off or now who you are when the lights are on, you got some conflict. I would look at that. I used to be like that. And it wasn't even that I was the same person in a lot of the ways that I was looking for the manipulative way to look the best. I knew who I had to be at work. I knew who I had to be at home. I knew I had to be on the street. All these things. Now, it's not to say that I don't play different roles. I can't be a husband the way I'm a professional, the way I'm a father, the way I'm a friend and community member. But I have the same core values now. I have the same fundamentals on I approach every situation I can with the highest level of integrity, with the highest level of value around I want to make the decisions that are most prudent to who I am in my soul. And so in that way, I'm always the same person, which means sometimes I'm an asshole still, and sometimes I'm very, very cool, calm, and collected, etc. But anyway, I think I went tangential there. You rebuild the house. You accept that we have flaws, that we have weaknesses, that we're susceptible. Life offers you a lot of things that make you susceptible. And the way out of temptation is not to pretend like it doesn't exist. It's to accept it. And then accept that I'm making a decision that I'm going to get 1% better. It might hurt. It might take longer. It may not yield the results that are instantaneous, but I'm rebuilding this thing from the ground up. It starts in the basement, and you're always going to pay out and be taxed by life, I think exponentially more than what you receive. The level of effort it takes for you to expand your life and see all the things you want to see in as broad a view of success as you want to see it cost way more. If for nothing more than, like me, maybe you find yourself not being able to turn yourself off. Daunting. You might think you want that life, but as I think I was alluding to, but I didn't really say, I don't remember what my life was before I started to think about my life all the time. And I can't shut off who I am to make myself who I am at all times because I believe in the 1%. I believe in don't give up, because don't give up on yourself. Because in the same way that you know what you've done and only you know, you're going to know when you gave up on yourself. And you don't want that. I could say there's a lot of things I don't know what you should do. I would say for sure that you don't want that in your life. You don't want the idea of I gave up again in your life. You don't want to be 43, going 44, 50, 55, 60. You don't want that. There's nobody who wants that. Day 10, tremendous blessing. I thank Red Rose for joining live. Anybody else who might have gone through this experience with me, may you be blessed with everything that you desire in your life. May you not give up on you. May you do the work for 1%. And may the return on the investment of your life be as broad and as dope and as crazy as you want. And I'll leave you with what Red Rose just left me. I think that for a person to truly understand that light, they have to go through the dark. Change your mind, change your life. I am who I say I am. Do you and stay rich.